pardon, Pirush, just like the image and the figure of the face, which the human being, man, shows in the water, presents, he presents in the water, so too it appears in the water, that same figure. So too, exactly the same. And the way the water reflects exactly that same image and figure which is presented in the water. So too Shlomo HaMelech continues, so to the heart of man, which is trustworthy with his love to another party. Instantaneously, that very love which you present to the other party arouses the love of the other party to you, exactly in the same way. And that is even prior to you demonstrating, we said before, demonstrating this overtly with a good thought, especially a good word, a good action. The heart reflects a heart. Filta heart is one way, similar to this idea, but in this case, it reflects your heart. You show a positive heart, instantaneously the heart of the other party to you is going to express the same way. And exactly the same way, although it's like a mirror. It doesn't take, the other side of the mirror, say, well, you're showing me a smiley face. Maybe I should show you back a smiley face. Give me a moment. I want to reciprocate. I want to look similar to the way you presented your face in the mirror. It doesn't work like that. In the mirror, what you show in the mirror, it's instantaneous. This, what you show in the mirror in tranquil waters, that's exactly what showed. That's exactly the image which comes straight back at you. So too Shlomo HaMelech says, you walk into a room with a positive heart of the other party, immediately the other party's heart will show you, will reflect the exact same sensation. And if it's a sensation of love, you'll feel the love of the other party to which you're showing your love to. The Rebbe goes on, that they should both be loving to each other. In other words, trustworthy parties which love each other. In other words, loving parties, but ne'monim, ne'monim. In other words, there's integrity to this love, there's a trust to this love, and they become eihavim, they become loving parties one to each other. The Rebbe continues and says, we alluded to this before as well, befrat, but specifically, when he's able to see the love of your friend to him, which means this exists even before you demonstrate any overt demonstration of your love to your friend. Right away, the positive heart is picked up by your friend's positive heart, and it reflects instantaneously back to you. But specifically, when your friend, when you see, in other words, when the friend picks up not only that sensation in your heart, but it comes to the surface. You express that sensation, again, through a good thought, and namely through a good word, and namely through a good action. So then there's something even much more palpable that your friend could pick up on, and that would just increase, or that would give out his positive, the instantaneous positive reaction will come out stronger naturally, or certainly the befrat, meaning to say how much when you show it clearly and overtly, certainly that reflection of love will come back straight at you from the other party's heart. The other party's heart, the love expressed with the other party's heart, will immediately, instantaneously come to the surface again back to you. So then the Alter Rebbe continues, again, these Alter Rebbe is taking this step by step to show us, demonstrate to us that when we follow this pattern in our mind, understanding and appreciating what's really going on, and the bigger picture of Hashem's relationship to Am Yisrael, which again, this is the emphasis in this chapter. We could even take it a step further, sometimes specifically when we see a certain kindness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to us, but let's follow the exact message of the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe is looking at what transpired initially from day one, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose us as a nation. what exactly happened at that time. And when we focus and we ponder and we penetrate on what happened then, and this is something that reoccurs on a daily basis, and not only to Am Yisrael as a whole, collectively, but individually, to me as an individual, what the Eibishter did for me and constantly does for me, when I just knowing about that, tuning into it, that itself should arouse my reciprocal love to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But let's again not jump the gun. Let's see how the Alter Rebbe, step by step, the Alter Rebbe brings home this point. This which Shlomo Melech was referring to, which was with two equals, two parties, two friends, two people who know each other. You have a positive attitude to the other person, instantaneously the other person will have a positive attitude to you. And again, particularly when he sees that, not only your heart is, and not only because of that feeling, the sensation in your heart, when he sees it, Bifrat, as the Alter Rebbe says, certainly that instinctive reaction, reflection, will be all full of love. Much more so, even they're equal in level. How much more so? How much more so when you're not dealing with two equal parties, but the one who's demonstrating the initial love is a great king. And a Rav means to say not only a Godel, great, but also a massive, literally Rav means to say a king of expansion, a famous king, a king which has great rulership, and his reign is an expansive type of reign. That's simple as the difference of Godel and Rav. When this type of king, Mara Avosei Agdoilo, demonstrates his great love, Va'atzuma, and his intense love, Le'ish Hedye, to a simple person, and not only a simple person, but a shameful person. And more so, Shval Anoshim. There's many people who are kind of shameful, but they're not the lowliest of people. The Alter Rebbe adds, not only is Nivzeh, but he's Shval Anoshim, he's a lowly type of person. And more than that, Umenuvel, Hamutul Ba'ashba, not only is a lowly person in character, but his whole composure, his whole presentation is of dirt. When you say Menuvel Hamutul Ba'ashba, he's a homeless, lowly person which finds himself in the dumps. Literally, that's what it means. So you're dealing with Shval Anoshim, lowly type of person, but it doesn't mean yet he's Menuvel Hamutul Ba'ashba, that he's someone who dirties himself and he's okay and he's indifferent to hang out in the dumps. And the Alter Rebbe says that not only is not necessarily it's so, but because there's certain people who are lowly people, but at least they have their dignity, and if they have to be out, if they're homeless, they'll find a bench, something cleaner, a little bit cleaner at least. But this person is so lowly that he's Menuvel Hamutul Ba'ashba. He dirties himself, and he finds himself in the dump. His default, this is what he does, and this is what where he hangs out. So you have all these levels. He is Ish Hedye, the simple person. Simple person, there's many simple people. And then more than that, Benivze, he's a shameful type of person. You have quite a few of that as well, but you can appreciate it's a level lower. Shval Anoshim, when you say someone Shval Anoshim, it's definitely a level lower. He's among people, he is a lowly among people. And more than that, he is Nuvel Mushal Mutul Ba'ashba, where he hangs out is in the dumps. He fills himself, which a person like that it's demonstrative of his personality, that he's extremely an unclean person, to say the least. And that great king comes, V'yedei love comes to him, from his place of honor. And how does he come to him? He doesn't sneak out in the middle of the night to find him because he has a certain sentiment to him, but he doesn't come with all his glory. He snuck out of his palace just because, for whatever reason, he feels that he has a relation, he relates to him, he has a sentiment to him, he's related to him, or whatever reason that he wants to go help him. But no, he comes with his entire glory, in Kol Sora, with all his his ministers, Yachtov, together. He comes with his whole entourage, with the entire kingdom appearance. His appearance of royalty, the appearance of regality comes with the entire, again, his entire entourage of ministers, Yachtov, together. Interesting. Yachtov means this sometimes, it was something like that. He tells ministers, stay behind a little bit. Don't come so much all at once, because it shouldn't, look too bad. And I'm coming together with everybody. He says, no, Yachtov. They're coming with that classic appearance of a king entering a town, entering a city with the whole entire covenant, the whole entire Gedulah. And he goes over here and doesn't go anywhere else other than to that dump. Umekimin elevates the person Merime and picks him up, me'ashbasi, from his dumpness, if you will, from his dirt, literally, which is the meaning, me'ashbasi, from his dirt. And he says, come with me. And he brings him lehichole. He doesn't just bring him to the closest shelter, or he doesn't bring him to the closest home, or he doesn't bring him to the nicest home in that city, in that area where this person was, but he brings him into the capital, and within the capital he brings him into his palace. Not only in his own palace, but Heichel HaMelech, in his own personal chamber, Cheder Lefnim Cheder, chamber within a chamber, and even areas that Mokim She'ein Kol Eved V'Sar Nichnas L'Sham, in a place where there's no servant and even no servant. We know servants go to places, sometimes even ministers don't go because they're serving the king, but this is even a chamber that no servant enters. And no ministers, again, naturally there's certain chambers which a minister would go in and a servant would not. Leizu Avzu, but neither a servant nor a minister Nichnas L'Sham ever goes in there. And he becomes one with him, Sham, in that chamber, with a true oneness, with a true closeness, with an embrace and a hug and a kiss. And a connection to your spirit to spirit. In other words, his bringing him close, his elevating was not something that he just wants to externally connect, or he wants him to alleviate himself externally from his lowliness in order that he should be somewhat on par, knowing that, look, I brought you into my chamber, and therefore, look, you should feel good, and you should feel proud, and you should perhaps start living differently. But the Alter Rebbe says more so, he's Dafka Rucha Berucha, he really connects with him soul to soul, spirit to spirit. B'chol lev nefesh, with all heart, with all soul. Now, in this case, understandably, we need not to explain, we need not to use our own words. Let's use Alter Rebbe's words. Allah has kama v'kama. How much more so? We can see how much more so. If this phenomenon exists, which Shlomo Melech is presenting, with two people which are on par with each other, similar to each other, how much more so the king himself, the highest, the greatest personality, goes to the lowest type of personality, elevates him and brings him in. And again, true kiruv, true yichud, and true izdavkus rucha berucha, how much more so she'te'erim imela ava, that would immediately, consequently, arouse that love, but not stam love, but kvulo mchupeles, a double and quadruple. And again, this is not only just a double, quadruple in number, what this lashon means, without any limit, but leva hedyet, in the heart of the simple person, shvala nashmazan, this very lowly person, al nefesh hamelech, to the soul of the king, that he would reciprocate in the same manner, bis kashrus nefesh mamosh, tying his soul, mamosh mileva nefesh, from his depth of his soul, the depth of his nefesh, of his soul, then of his heart and his soul, mu'um kadelibo, from the depth of his heart, la'en kate, which means no limit, the deepest and yet deepest, deeper and yet deeper and yet deeper, to no end. As we know, heart, there is no end to one of the depth of one's heart. Again, we explained this another time, the unique dynamic of the heart, which doesn't exist in any other faculties of the person. So the depth is la'en kates, and the ava is la'en kates. The depth is la'en kates, the ava, the love and the connection and the drive and the passion of this person to the king is infinite. Even this person's personality is that his heart is like the heart of a stone, which is an expression of the pasuk, that the certain times, which the heart by definition is something especially when it's expressed itself, especially when it expresses itself with love and passion, or passionate love and compassion. The heart is usually something which is anything else than a stone, because this is what heart is all about. It's all about expression, and it's all about excitement and passion. But sometimes there's certain people that this is what the Navi laments, or the Navi even speaks about a time when the heart of man will be melted, even though it's like heart of a stone. And this individual has this issue, that despite it's a heart, nonetheless his heart is expressed his heart has toughened itself up, stiffened itself up like a stone. But when he experienced that very experience, the above experience, it'll melt away. It'll melt as water, till as liquid. In other words, it will completely decongeal, if you will. It will melt completely, and it'll become like water. V'tishtapach nafshi, and the soul will pour kamayim, like water, because nefesh, with the outpour of the soul, mamosh la'avas hamelech, mamosh, to the love of the king. With this example, the Alter Rebbe is going to go on. It says, what he's going to say to us. It's hard to stop over here, the mashal without the nimshal. Basically, the Alter Rebbe is going to say this is exactly what the Eibishter did. Our state in the very initial time, when at the time when Hashem yanked us out of Mitzrayim, was the image of that lowly person sitting ba'ashba. As Alter Rebbe is going to explain in the state of Am Yisrael. And really, this is the Navi even alludes to this whole thing. The Eibishter says, I picked you up, you were bleeding, you just came out of the womb, no one looked after you, and you were bleeding, and I came, I wrapped you around, and I elevated you, I brought you close, and I brought you close to myself, and so on. Again, this is pretty much the expression of the pasuk itself in Tanakh, but the Rebbe so eloquently brings us home even much more clarity and expansiveness. Over here it says the state of Am Yisrael was similar to that Shval Enosh. In other words, that the mashal is accurate to the nimshal. The nimshal is accurate to the mashal. It wasn't just Shval Enoshim, it was Menuvul v'Ashba. And Hashem came down with all his sarim, with all his ministers, which was again the experience of Matan Torah. Or even prior to that, the Eibishter himself came down to Erebas Haaretz, to Mitzrayim. He yanked us away, and where did he bring us? By Matan Torah, he brought us to himself, mamish. These dapkas rucha berucha, which is the whole idea of Limud Torah, like the Alter Rebbe pointed out a few times up till this point. But the Alter Rebbe eventually will show us that the whole idea of Limud Torah is, and learning Torah, doing mitzvahs, is not just for obeying, which that exists also, that relationship of king and subject, master and servant, that we're obeying HaKadosh Baruch Hu by learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, but it's much more than that. As basically, again, this is predicated on the message of Shir Hashirim, and that the Hashem, when he does Torah mitzvahs, he literally becomes one with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, intimate with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The mitzvahs are the limbs of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's an embrace with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Learning Torah becomes mamish one with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. As Alter Rebbe's message in the end of the previous chapter, Vayishak Yaakov l'Rachel, it's the idea of nishikin, true intimacy with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So coming from there, becoming part of Hashem's dynamic. Mamash istapkas rucha berucha. How should the Yid react to that? Isn't it obvious the way the Yid should react to that? And Alter Rebbe again is very explicit on that part of the message as well, which we look forward to continuing, B'ezras Hashem.